All right, welcome back to the Barbell Medicine YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum. This is Honorary Dr. Tom Campitelli. Today, we're going to talk about why he's wrong about the sumo deadlift.
Excellent.
So, Tom, you are a proponent of not allowing people to do the sumo deadlift in your meets, meaning that you hate the sumo deadlift. Why do you hate having fun?
I do hate the sumo deadlift. I think it's an offense against man and God. And I don't think anyone should ever do them under any circumstances.
Okay, but real talk, has there ever been a time with a trainee that you've had them do the sumo deadlift?
Of course.
Okay, so what are those times that you have somebody do a sumo deadlift?
If they have very long legs and short arms and their back angle would be such that their hips are above their shoulders, which is an unusual position.
Sure.
If their back is bothering them for some reason and the more upright back angle allows them to productively pull off the floor.
Yeah, if they can tolerate that pull for whatever reason better than a conventional deadlift.
Right,
sure.
right.
But what I'm not hearing that you're saying you can predict whether somebody's going to pull sumo or not just by looking at them. This is all based on you've seen them set up for deadlift. It looks really, really weird, or they don't tolerate it based on their experience. And so you say, well, let's try sumo.
Correct.
You agree. Okay. Now, do you think that the sumo deadlift actually uses less muscle mass than the conventional deadlift?
No.
Okay. So would you say that in general, the training effects from a general strength improvement, from a muscle hypertrophy improvement, from a skill acquisition standpoint are the same between sumo deadlift and conventional deadlift?
For most purposes, yes.
Then why don't you allow the sumo deadlift in your meets?
Because my heart is dead.
Well, it seems like it's more out of convention than anything else. And I think that, previously we'd both been under some sort of pressure to dislike or to view the sumo deadlift as a lesser version of the deadlift. But I think it is relatively arbitrary.
Everything is arbitrary.
I agree. So then, should I expect that the sumo deadlift will be allowed at the next USSF?
It'll be all sumo deadlifts.
You can only sumo deadlift.
As of right now, no. I don't think there's a compelling argument to be made that the sumo deadlift is an inferior lift. I do think there is an argument to be made that it's a different movement than the conventional pull.
Sure.
And I will grant you right now that all of this is arbitrary. Mm-hmm. Like, it's simply saying this and not that. Mm-hmm. I do think that when you watch somebody who takes a very wide stance and pulls a sumo deadlift versus somebody that is pulling a narrow stance conventional deadlift, that they're different enough to make it kind of an apples to oranges comparison.
Sure.
Obviously, there are all kinds of variants in the squat and in the bench press and in the press. But if you think about the squat, you've still got like two landmarks that need to be monitored for determining if you're going below parallel.
But you're allowing people to do high bar or low bar.
Of course.
And they can squat wide or narrow stance. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the press, they can do a dynamic start or strict.
Correct.
So
I know it's all arbitrary.
Well, it's not my federation, but what I'm getting at is that I think that the disallowing the sumo deadlift is a historical, convention thing that we've just carried on through time because people have at some point said, well, sumo deadlift is worse.
Correct.
But I can't make a compelling argument that it is. I think the best deadlift that you can do is one that you can train very consistently and productively for a long period of time. If you have somebody who tweaks their back every second week by pulling conventional only, then it is your duty as a coach to try to figure out a way around that, and the sumo deadlift may be a part of that.
Sure. And
if you have a competitor who's going to go to a meet where they allow sumo deadlift, which is every other competition in the entire world, then you may want to try that just to test out to see if they have a competitive advantage. I'm not going to put any additional pressure on you to change your...
You better allow sumo.
Well, I think that saying that sumo is not allowed just is us burying our head in the sand and saying we just don't like it, but we can't come up with a reason why. You know,
I think the only reason, from a training perspective, you and I are in agreement here.
Sure.
In fact, I remember having a discussion with our buddy Dwayne Wint many years ago, who had a lot of trouble getting his back flat in a conventional pull, and he moved his stance out a little bit into like a semi kind of a narrowish sumo stance, and his back is now flat. Like,
Sure.
I think there's lots of good reasons to potentially pull the sumo deadlift.
Yeah.
However, I think we are bound a little bit by convention in that we started with this, and I would come back to this, like, comparing like to like as much as is possible. There are few ways to modify the squat in the same way that changes the range of motion of the lift as much as a sumo deadlift differs from a regular deadlift, a conventional deadlift. And the other comparison I would make is, like, within the rules of powerlifting, you've seen a very wide grip bench press with a very short range of motion accompanied by a big arch.
Sure.
And you can look at that and you can say that's a different movement from like a flatter back, longer range of motion bench press. And this isn't to say, like, oh, you're obviously, all you have to do is this trick so that you can bench press more.
Trick.
That one weird trick.
Yeah.
But they are testing something different.
Sure.
And within the rules of powerlifting, you've got this, this kind of disparity where people are doing more or less different movements. And I have no idea how you would actually, in the context of a meet, come up with a good set of rules to avoid that with the bench press. I think
mandate a range of motion, like using laser point laser.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would become onerous to figure out a way to do it. I do think in the deadlift, if you can strain the stance to within the feet, you are, once again here, all of this stuff is arbitrary at some level. You're making the deadlift, you're standardizing the deadlift to a certain extent. And if you think about the press, you can take a wide grip press, but it's generally not an advantage. The press winds up almost constraining itself to within a fairly narrow range of grip widths that winds up making the bar move a certain.
So you could have more or less layback. And
Yep.
we're eliminating certain people from being able to compete in your meets if the only way that they can pull off the floor is sumo. So I feel like you're excluding some folks.
You make a strong point.
So,
and when you're right, you're right.
So, I don't think we have a firm answer here, but we wanted to talk about it and let you guys in on the discussion. So we're here with Hugh Laurie, who is the commissioner of the USSF, and the next meet may or may not allow sumo deadlifts.
Yes, Jordan will be continually reminding me, hey, how about those sumo deadlifts?
Right. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. See you.